But yeah, so Ezra, as I say, Ezra I found annoying as all hell. I thought he was a dick. Kanan I like a lot. I think he's cool. To be honest, for a bit when I was watching it, Hera was my favourite out of the group. Sabine's okay. Zeb, we don't talk about Zeb. The Inquisitor's great villain because he's voiced by Jason Isaacs. Yeah, he does a pretty good job. Yeah, like I say, the Chopper's just Chopper in it. He's just there. I don't really have much to say. Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like
nothing really.
You talk about like BB-8 or R2. Like they have, even though they are almost sort of like decoration at this point, they have more going for them than someone like Chopper does, I guess.
Do you know who voices Chopper?
No, I don't.
So I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
You will find out at the very end of the series total. So up until then, maybe have a few guesses as you go. Try and like maybe keep a list of who you possibly think it could be, and I'll be interested to see what you come up with.
Okay, yeah, okay. And then I'll let you know. A couple of things like the art style at first. I'm like, it's not my favorite.
Sure.
I definitely prefer the art style of Clone Wars to Rebels.
I think everyone does.
That's not a new opinion, is it, at all?
No.
I've sort of gotten used to it. Like, there are certain character designs that I'm not that keen on. Like, I wasn't keen. You know the episode where they save the Wookiees?
Yeah.
I'm not that keen on how the Wookiees look. I think they look awful.
No, nobody's keen on it.
Oh, no, fair enough. That's not the new thing. I'm not being controversial.
No. The Wookiees do look pretty awful.
Like, the little baby kid dude, he looked okay. But overall, they just look horrible. And the episode where 3PO and R2 show up, that like it's hard. It's difficult to get R2 wrong, isn't it? Because he's fairly simple. Like, there's not much to get wrong. Like, to be fair, my opinion on it has softened a bit, but at first I wasn't that keen on how 3PO looked. But looking back on it, he looks fine. He definitely looks better than the Wookiees. Those Wookiees, don't understand how they look that bad.
I think it's just the art style. I agree. It looks just
it
gets better. I feel like Rebels. I don't know if it's just I got used to it, but I feel like Rebels generally, as you go along, begins to look so much nicer than it does in the first season.
That's true of both it and Clone Wars. Like,
Clone Wars. If we're gonna go to
compare season 1 of Rebels to season 1 of Clone Wars, and Rebels is so much better.
Yeah, Clone Wars looks.
To be fair, because I have watched later episodes of Rebels, like I feel like there is a definite difference by the point of, say, like Midnight Sun or Twilight the Apprentice compared to like the very start, where there are certain characters that look a lot better than they did when it started. So, but like having watched, say, like Twilight of the Apprentice and Twin Suns, having watched the two of them in isolation, they're good, but I've watched them ages ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the series will probably give me better context for what happens, even though, but no, overall, it's good. I know it will get like better, more connected, that sort of thing. The more will happen. Good villains. The cast is pretty strong. Character designs and art style I've gotten used to a bit now, so it's not as jarring. I've sort of softened up to Ezra a bit. He's still a bit not as annoying as Zeb, but
What was the last episode you saw then?
Episode 10, which is the one where... Is it the one where Ezra gets his crystal from the cave? I think.
Okay, I don't think that's episode 10, but that one, okay.
But yeah, I think that's the last one I remember.
Mid-season premiere, okay.
Yeah. Some standout episodes. The one where they think they're going to rescue Luminara Unduli. That one's good.
Rise of the Old Masters.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like the Empire Day one. That one's good.
Mm-hmm.
With Thebo. McClunky.
Censor that in post.
Oh,
Hey, we're going to be talking about that when we get to Mandalorian.
we will. I like. Anyway, we'll get to it later. Yeah, that one's good. The one where he gets his kyber crystal, that's pretty good.
See, that's funny because I remember when I was watching season 1 for the first time back in the day.
Yeah,
that's the only episode of the season I didn't particularly like.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think my issue with it was a pacing issue. It felt way too footloose and fast.
Yeah.
I think it still does hold true upon a rewatch for me personally.
For me, I think I like it. It stands out because it gives, probably the same for the Empire Day one, it gives development to Ezra that I think helped me warm up to him. I've not finished season 1 yet, so I'll sort of messages let you know what I think.
Obviously, you know some things
I
about
know
what happens
some
in the
of
future.
what happens, yeah, because of like context and like Mandalorian and all that. I know bits and pieces.
But
yeah.
Yeah, so I really love the art style of Rebels. It's not as good as Clone Wars, but it has its charm, and I think it's really chef's kiss. Zeb, yeah, I mean, one of the big criticisms I think I have about the Ghost Crew as regards season 1 is that it feels very much tipped towards a heavy Kanan and Ezra focus rather than the others. I don't feel like I almost go on a whim and say that of all the characters in season 1, Sabine is actually the least served. Now
carry on. Sorry.
That will change as things go on, but in specifically season 1, I feel that Kanan and Ezra get almost all the meat. Then Zeb gets the next big chunk, and Hera and Sabine are kind of left on the side as kind of an after palate.
Is that because they sort of have to set up the Master Padawan dynamic between Kanan and Ezra?
I suppose, and season 1 has a shorter episode count than some of the others, so there is a little bit less breathing room, I suppose.
Yeah,
but it's a noticeable thing for me.
So far, I see what you mean because apart from that episode where Hera and Sabine get stranded on that asteroid base and the Phantom is damaged, it's like they get, because it's the two of them by themselves for the most part, apart from to cut back to Ezra and Zeb beating up Chopper. Why?
Do you know who you're messing with? I've got brawn and brains, you know. Now just slap yourself around and go home.
But it would be a pretty good, like, I guess bottle episode because it's just the two of them, Hera and Sabine. It's in like a pretty sort of closed-in location. There are some obstacles with those weird weasel badger bat. That gives them a bit each. One of the big reasons that Hera was my favorite because it seemed like she was the most mature and adult in the room, if that makes sense. Like,
Sure.
whereas Zeb and Ezra were just sort of beating each other up, like, and Chopper and everyone. It's like whatever. Kanan is just sort of his own. He's quite cool. But yeah, that could have been
That episode also introduces the mystery of Fulcrum.
It does. And then they keep going, and Sabine did annoy me in that one because she's constantly like, "Well, why don't you tell me about Fulcrum? Why can't you tell me anything?" Because she can't, Sabine. Just trust her, innit? You've been trusting her for years, and this is the time you choose to go, "Well, what? She hates me."
Hey, back off, creep. I've had enough of you. Show some respect. You fight with Sabine Wren, you get what you deserve.
Yeah, of course you know who Fulcrum is, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I know now.
You should do, because we talked about it last week.
It's whatever, it's fine. I was not... I mean, but yeah, as you say, like, season 1, so far anyway, we've obviously, like, Kanan and Ezra do get the bulk, and even when you see how Kanan reacts to hearing the Inquisitor talk about his master's name, and he was like, "Oh, you trained with Master
Depabilaba.
I was going to say Hujamaflip." And he was like, "Oh, well, what do you know? Like, what?" But, yeah, it's what it is.
I think most people say that season 1 is the weakest season.
Is it?
I don't know. I mean, that's the general consensus. I have a real soft spot for season 1, though, because it, to me, presents us with a batch of characters who, again, to me, are superior to that of the Clone Wars. Not counting the obvious ones in that, but in Rebels, and especially in season 1, you've got this core 5 who are presented and developed extremely well, and I think that actually makes for overall better characters. And as the show progresses, it kind of loses the close-knit, small-scale group fiesta that season 1 has presented us with, which on the one hand, it's a good thing because it's extending the scope throughout the wider universe and becoming more interconnected and stuff. But on the downside, I kind of miss the kind of like the smaller scale of season 1 and the feeling of family unit that it brings. I don't know. That's just how I am. I feel like I'm the only one in a billion that has a real soft spot for that first season.